Hey everyone, my name is Dave Nixon and welcome back to another episode of the Peak and Flow podcast. I apologise for my absence over the last, couple of weeks, right? I've just been a little bit slack, behind maybe on the podcasts, with many moving parts happening. Of course, I'm sure everyone's got plenty of moving parts. However, yes, there is a lot of things occurring from revamping the retreats and the immersions that we've been hosting for a couple of years now, completely revamping them and how they're done, which is very exciting. Also putting together what really is a Peak and Flow community, but more on that to come in the coming weeks, which that's probably what I'm most really excited about. And once again, revamping the coaching stuff as well. So there's a bit going on amongst that. Moving house, selling an apartment, being 22 weeks pregnant. Not me personally. As a collective, I'm more of a vice captain in that scenario. But either way, I'll aim to get more and more of these podcasts up and running. It's just making sure I'm putting time aside and giving quality content rather than just doing them for the sake of doing them. So either way, here we are today. I want to talk about the hidden why. So there's a lot of really simple concepts that when played back on itself can be exceptionally profound. An example of that is, what's the problem behind the problem? Another example is, what's the difference that makes the difference? And then another example here is, what's the why behind the why? That's what we're talking to today. And the reason being is because most people present a surface level why. Now, that's in many different areas. Like, why do you want this job? Why is going to the gym important to you? Why do you love me? It could be any particular context. A lot of the time, majority of the time, people will present a surface level why. And this could be for a number of reasons. It could be fear of judgment. It could be fear of failure. It could be fear of knowing. It could be fear of many different things. There's multiple reasons why it may be occurring, right? The key thing here, though, is, well, what's the fear of judgment on behalf of? And so is it, if I say that this really is why it's important to me, then you'll think that's silly and then I'll feel shame, so I don't want to actually say that. So I just present you with something that I think you might accept, which makes it easier for me to accept. That could be an example. The fear of failure is, well, if I say it and then I don't do it, then I look silly. And I feel bad and I don't want to do that. So I just kind of give you a bit of a surface level why. The last one that I mentioned was actually really interesting because it's like the fear of knowing. So if I give you a surface level why and I personally choose not to go deep on really understanding why it's important to me and tapping into what's going to be emotive and emotionally charged, then it means that I don't really ever know. And if I don't really ever know, then it's not really my fault that I never really pursued it. Whereas if I know, now I'm cursed with this understanding that I know what I want and know why I want it, then that's going to really drive change. And for a lot of people, that can be exceptionally scary. So one of the key things here is that these surface level whys behind why we do what we do, the surface level, the initial level, actually contribute to failure. If we do not go deep, our surface level why, if we stop there, it will contribute to failing, to falling short, to not getting what we want. I'll give you an example through those three examples that I gave you, right? The fear of judgment. So I'm going to offer a surface level why in fear of judgment means I've already judged myself. So the thing that I'm fearing, I'm already doing. So it's not just ironic, it's this weird bind where I'm not going to tell you because I've already judged myself based on other people's previous judgments of me. And so because I've judged myself, I don't want you to judge me because that's a two-pronged attack now. So I'm just going to give you a surface level why, right? There's already judgment there. The other one, fear of failure. So I don't actually go deep on it. I don't go true on it. I don't get to the real juice of it. Fundamentally promotes failure, because if I've got a bigger why, a bigger driver, right, a bigger pull, bigger push towards going towards what's most important to me, that's going to help increase the chances of actually succeeding. Even if I do fail, I'm going to pick myself up and find a different way to do it or keep going and try something different. So the fear of failure fundamentally will actually promote failure. So then we've got the fear of knowing. Well, the problem with never really meeting ourselves on a level deep enough is that we never get to meet anyone else there, because you can't meet someone to a level that you have not met yourself. And one of the challenges here is that I never actually peel back the layers of my why, of my thinking, of my feeling, of my emotions, of my intentions, of my meanings. I never really get to meet myself. I'm constantly just working with some surface level stuff. And sometimes that even comes up in conversations where somebody will present something that's a bit deeper, so to speak, and the person responds going, "Whoa, that's deep." It's like, well, what did you want? Was it... Now, this is the cashier at the service station, the gas station. Maybe that's not the right context. I don't know. But there is plenty of context where that may be relevant, and the person might say, well, that was deep. We got it deep quick, or something along those lines. And it's just open. It's free. It's free. It's here. That's the truth. That's reality. That's what's important to me and why. And I spent time meeting this and seeing this and understanding it and accepting it so that I can make sure that I'm moving towards where I want to go, not making plan B, C, D, and E on behalf of being scared of achieving what it is that's really important to me, because I'm scared of actually saying it out loud. So this is weird thing where the fear of actually really knowing means that we stay surface level and we never get to actually meet ourselves. So what's the why behind the why? What is the why behind the why? And it will be, if it's the right why, it'll be emotionally charged. So it's not just logical. There's logic to it to some degree, but it does not stop there. It is emotionally charged. There is some meaning there. It's what's really important. It will be meaningful, and that's going to create some emotion behind what commonly is not seen as logic, but there'll be logic as well. So I have a question, then I have a situation and context for you. The question here is, ultimately, what's important for me? Ultimately, big picture, grand scheme, zoom out, my only life, ultimately, what's most important for me? And if we can do that, it ends up being like, oh, because I just want to lose weight. Like, that's why. Because I want to feel better. It's like, so ultimately you want to feel better. Yeah, ultimately, in the grand scheme of life and your living, you just want to feel better. Well, yeah, but I want to be able to be a good dad, you know? I want to be able to show up for the people around me, and I want to, I don't know, just not be what my parents were. It's like, okay, now we're getting somewhere. Now we're getting to something that's actually very important, that's going to help really drive the change, as opposed to keeping a surface level. People go, oh, but I know that. Yeah. It's like, well, how often are you aware of it? How often do you bring it to, like, how often do you fucking fill your car with that so that you drive somewhere? Or you're always taking the bus, right? So ultimately, what's most important to me here? And then you've got the rocking chair question. When rocking chair question is, you're sitting on your front porch, if you're that way inclined, when you're 80, 85, 90, and you're looking back on your life and you're looking back on this current situation, and you ask the question, what advice would that person give me now? What was ultimately most important to them? And what advice would they give me? What do they wish I would have done in this moment now, today? Chances are, more often than not, it doesn't sound like make sure you wear things that other people will approve of. It won't sound like make sure you sacrifice yourself for work. It won't sound like make sure you please other people so that you can feel good if they're happy with you. It won't sound like any of that sort of shit. It doesn't. That question sounds more like, do what's most important to you, be honest to yourself, and show up in a way that's authentic. It'll sound something along those lines, or your version of that. Because ultimately, self-honesty and acceptance is the pathway for this. It is, you can imagine, if I'm being honest with myself and meeting myself and accepting what that why is, it's like a mammoth wall, right? My first initial thought is like, how the fuck do I get over this wall? It's just easier to stay in this yard, right? But I've been in this yard my whole life. It's familiar. But once I climb over that wall, that wall of self-honesty and acceptance, it's fucking freedom. It is freedom. And too often, that's so unfamiliar, people stay in the yard of familiarity. It's not what they want, right? We have to be honest with ourselves in order to climb over that wall, to have enough motivation to leave familiarity and to move into something new that's going to be really the next step and stage in our life. But if we don't have a big enough why, you will stay in that yard of familiarity. And there is nothing wrong with that if that's what you want to do. But if you want to pursue what's possible, what's really possible, you're going to have to climb over that wall. And on that note, team, I'm done. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you found this podcast beneficial, it would mean the world to me if you'd pass it on to someone else that you think would also find it beneficial. And you can get a copy of my book, Money Yourself, anywhere online that sells books. And you can find out more about our retreats and trainings at peakandflow.com.au. But that's me done. I'm out. Until next time, peace and pizza. I'll see you soon.